Hello and welcome. In this episode, Patricia shares her story from Bucharest to the first 2 years at the Copenhagen Business School. We learn how she landed a marketing manager role at a tech startup, how she made a transition from this to a big international company, and what advice she has to give for students and young professionals. Enjoy. Thanks, Patricia, for joining my podcast. So it would be great to start off by giving the listeners a short summary of your bio.
Hey, Stefan. Thanks a lot for having me. So I'm just gonna start off by kind of introducing myself. My name is Patricia. I am 29 years old, in case that's relevant for anybody. Thank you. I currently live in Copenhagen, Denmark, but I'm originally from Bucharest, Romania. And I have to say that I used to live I lived for 20 years back in Romania, and for the past 8 to 9 years here in Copenhagen, Denmark. I am working in marketing in a corporation called VELUX, and it's actually a company that is also in Romania at this point. I think they have their HQ in Brașov, if I'm not wrong. And I've been in the on the market for around 8 years. And I actually came to Copenhagen from Bucharest to study my master's at Copenhagen Business School. That's the main reason that brought me here. And it's actually funny because I have never thought that I would be here today after so many years. Like, I came to Copenhagen with the thought, I'm just gonna study my master's and then let's see where this takes me, or sort of like, maybe then I'm gonna go travel to Spain or to Italy or to France or to whatever place, to sort of like see where that's taking me. But I've never ever thought that I'm gonna be staying in Denmark, and here I am, like, I don't know, 8-9 years later, and got an apartment here, got everything all set up here. So I don't think I'm gonna leave anytime soon, but I never say never. That's what I learned from life up until this point. It's like that I'm never saying never, because you never know what's where life's taking you.
Right.
Yeah, you could say that short intro of myself.
Right. Cool stuff, Patricia. So let's start all the way back, and I would want to jump in with some questions, starting all the way back with your maybe high school or university. In general, people are starting with the university, but if you have like stuff to mention during high school, that would be great as well. I don't mind.
Definitely. Yeah. So, like I said, I've been living my entire life in Bucharest, Romania. To be honest, I've been studying at a top high school in Bucharest. So I've always had this parents, and when I'm saying parents, I'm actually referring to my mom mostly, who's been this. I mean, both of them. Yeah, exactly. Both of them been really like, you need to be top of the class, etc., etc. But my dad's been more like, yeah, but you also need to live a little. But my mom's been the one who's, I don't know, done a PhD, done an MBA in her life. She's been studying abroad as well in the US, etc. So she's always been like, you need to be top of the class. You need to study abroad. You need to do this and that and that. She's been the pusher, so to say. And maybe I hated it when I was a kid, so to say. But on the other hand, I am very, very grateful to her at this point, to be honest, by looking back. And I knew that this would happen, but it's just the timing. So she's always been like, yeah, you need to do this and that. So if it were up to her, I wouldn't have studied not even my high school in Romania. She would have sent me straight from when I was 16, maybe like 15, out of the country. But okay, I got into one of the best, like, I think maybe even this year has been the best high school in Bucharest, right?
Really?
So
which one is it? Okay, it's just across the street of my.
Yeah, I really love the location, everything. I still have, nostalgia about that place. I think it's been a really cool period for me, to be honest. Many people cannot decide whether high school or university is the greatest period of their life. I feel like high school has been the best period of my life in terms of understanding and learning a couple of stuff, right? And maturing. But since I got there, then my mom was like, okay, let's see what you got here, right? So then I graduated from that. And that's been a bit of a crucial point for me, because my mom was really pushing here to kind of me going abroad. And to be honest, it's mainly because she's been abroad, and she's been studying in Washington, her MBA. And she said, like, you need to go. It's a completely different life. I feel like she's also been kind of through this, her lenses, like she went to study abroad, her MBA, and then she was offered a job there and to move with her whole family, etc. And she refused because she has this very idealistic mindset, where she felt like she would come back home, enroll into politics, and then kind of make a change in Romania, through politics. And life proved her wrong a bit later, sadly. But nonetheless, she had this idealistic, mindset. So she came back. She refused that job. So I feel like she was also like, through her regrets and through her lenses, it's like, no, you need to go out, and maybe stay there, as opposed to me. So nonetheless, I said no, even to that. I said no, no. It was super tricky because I had already made so many connections, so many friends in my hometown back then, that I found it extremely hard for me to leave the country. And I feel like it's only because I was from Bucharest and I studied in Bucharest. I feel like for my fellow colleagues who were, say, coming from different cities in Romania, maybe Ploiești, maybe, like surroundings, it would have been easier because they had already left home back then. So if you leave home already, like, even if it's to a different city in the same country, it's much easier for you than to make the next step and leave it for good, leave the country as well. Whereas for me, I stayed there for the entire life. I made like all my friends, etc. So it was extremely hard for me to just conceive that I need to leave Romania. So I fully said no, So I stayed there, but I had no freaking clue what I wanted to do in terms of college. And I think that's horrible in the Eastern countries. I learned later that it's all over Eastern countries, this thing, because we need to decide. I feel like Eastern countries are always on fast forward. We need to decide all the time about, like, okay, you've had college, you've been through high school, then you need to decide what you want to do for your entire life at what, 17, 18? Who does that ever? Like, I don't know, but it's just like, you're so immature at that point that it's kind of impossible for you to figure out, yes, I want to be a doctor and save lives and stuff like that. Like, we're all kids at some point. We all want to be astronauts, or we all want to be teachers or nurses, or you name it, all the cliche kind of jobs, but we don't really know what that entails, etc. And we have a lot of theoretical kind of teaching in Romania, so we don't really know what practice is, right? So it's a bit of a hard choice to make. So here's the funny story. I was liking different aspects. So back in high school, in my last year, I started taking architecture lessons. So for a whole year, I went to take architecture lessons and draw and do all sorts of stuff. Then in parallel, I'm all talking in parallel here. I've been the best at chemistry during my period, whatever. So I was like super passionate about chemistry. So I used to go to like Olympics and stuff like that, whatever. So I actually got to the chemistry university because I've been to all those Olympic whatever. So then I ended up going on special places for people who've been extremely good at chemistry in high school. So I got in. I said, oh, cool, amazing, because I like chemistry. In parallel, I was preparing to get to psychology, to become a psychologist. Truly, no freaking nothing, right? No connection whatsoever. So I was preparing for all this, and also on top of that, I was taking Arabic courses because I wanted to go to foreign languages. I'm really passionate about foreign languages in general. I speak 8 foreign languages.
Wow.
I'm really like, this is my hobby, my, however you want to call it, in my free time, my spare time. I study Russian. So I'm like, just, this is what meditates me, right? So I was studying Arabic, so I can just go to foreign languages as well, because I thought that doing 2-3 universities at once, bachelors at once, I thought that must be it, right? It must be fun. So I did that, and on top of that, that's the cherry on top. It was this hype of registering like to universities, so like signing up, etc. I was literally, and I'm not kidding you, passing by ASE, the University of Economic Studies in Bucharest, passing by the street where you would sign up. And then I look at them, and then they were requiring that you take a test in mathematics and English and economics. And I was coming from a mathematics and IT kind of profile. So I said, I must know the stuff. And the submission was 100 lei, which is 25 euros or something like that. So I said, oh, it happens that I have this money with me. So I'm just gonna pay so I can get here as well. And so we're talking here maybe 4 universities, like chemistry, psychology, foreign languages, and this University of Economic Studies. And the architecture, just to mention it, I didn't even go to take the submissions, because after 1 year of courses and stuff like that, I decided that I don't want to do that. So I didn't go there. So we're talking about 4 universities. I got into all of them, like pure by just whatever. And I just literally I said, okay, I should try and go to classes. Who does that? Because on a Monday you had classes to 3 universities, 4 universities at once, and then if you probably know that the system in Romania, you just basically you cannot just say, oh, I cannot join today, or oh, I cannot do that. It's, if you're not coming to this class, then you don't go into the final exam, then you're out, So it's pretty much like that. Theory is very important, and being present at the courses and classes and whatever. So of course I failed that. This doesn't go like that. And the teacher at University of Economic Studies, my macroeconomics teacher, she was like, why didn't you come to my last course? And I'm like, because I'm also at the other university, whatever. It's like, I don't believe you. Who's at 2 universities at once? Truly, it's like, she's like, I'm gonna check. It's like, okay, call the university. She called the university. It's like, okay, she's there. Oh, okay, whatever. And then it's like, yeah, but then I want to see you pass my exams, So then I got a 10 at her own, class, whatever. She's like, okay, chapeau, sort of like heads off. And then, but I had to. Bottom line is, because I'm getting too long here, but bottom line is that I realized that I could only follow 2 universities at once, which was foreign languages, because it was a hobby, and cool. Then University of Economic Studies. But I realized that out of the 2, the University of Economic Studies would be the one opening most doors for me, in the sense of it would bring me, I could decide later on, because again, I wasn't decided what I wanted to do. As you can sense, all of the profiles were super different, but the University of Economic Studies could give me an idea. Do I want to do finance? Do I want to do accounting? Do I want to do marketing? Whatever I wanted to do at a later stage, I could kind of decide. And also it could open me a lot of doors, in the sense of following a master's abroad, because many of my colleagues who've gone through med school or through law school, they're like, yeah, I can only go to France, or I can only go to Germany to kind of do the same thing. Else you're not, cannot, have the same credits, and they have a lot of restrictions in that sense. So I wanted to have it easy to decide later what I wanted to do. So I went through this, and I finished up that, and then I applied to a couple of universities, and I know that I was choosing based on the master's program. I knew my mom's been here with work before in Denmark, in Copenhagen, so she advised me to come here. I applied, And I will tell you super honestly, like I applied, I got accepted to the exact same master's program that I wanted. And I had so many doubts if to leave the country or not, that I was almost telling my mom that I didn't get accepted, just like, should I leave the country? Should I not? And I knew for sure that if I told my mom that I got accepted, she would like literally kick me out of the house. Luckily, I just told her the truth, and there I was in a while afterwards, like 3 months afterwards, I was coming here, had no clue of the language, had no clue of, I didn't have any clue of anything, and the first 6 months have been horrible, to be honest, horrible in terms of cultural acceptance. It's been quite a big cultural gap. So I feel like maybe had I gone to studies in Spain or Italy or France or whatnot, it would have been a bit easier from a cultural perspective, right? It's been extremely different, and I learned it the hard way here. But afterwards, it's been extremely satisfactory. Like now, I don't want to leave. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just now I feel like I belong here. But it's been hard to adjust, to adapt to. I got my first white hairs after 6 months of living here. I'm not kidding at all.
But yeah, I'm curious, what would be those cultural differences? I mean, we can discuss them now, or we can circle around a bit later.
No, yeah, we can dig deep into it. Yeah, first off, they're like Western people, right? They have this first of like one of the first things that I heard when I came here. So the average age at my master's program was 28, 29. I was 21, right? I just turned 21. I was 20 and turned 21 when I started the master's. And everybody was like, literally, what are you doing here? Why are you doing this master's at this age? Like those were the questions. Why are you not traveling? Because the Western culture is a bit of like, people go to high school, then they take 1-2 gap years. Then they go to bachelor's, then they take 1, 2, 3, 4 gap years. Then they study masters. They study the masters like my mom studied her MBAs, so to say, and then MBAs way later, if that's the case. So everybody was much more mature than I was, and I could see that we had like a lot of group projects, a lot of practical projects to follow through, and it was interesting, but it was clearly, to be honest and to be fair and straight, I wasn't the asset of the group back then. Those people had worked before. You could see that they had worked before, they have traveled before, they had much more experience in life and in like, I don't know, building up a paper, a proper work, So I felt like I was a more of a, I wouldn't say a liability. No, for sure not. But I was a bit of like, what's happening here? Okay, I'm following you guys, whereas back home, I would have definitely taken the leader cap, or more like, the pusher, or the, and here I was a bit more like listening, trying to follow, etc. So it was clearly not my style. And it was the first time when I learned that I don't always get straight A's or straight 10s, how we have the maximum grade. Like here we have the grades from -3 to 12. 2 like 2 being that you pass a paper or something, an exam. And I don't know, I got at some point my lowest grade, I think, was you have 2, 4, 7, 10, 12. And I was only used to 12s in Romania, if we were to refer to the same way, right? And I come here and I took a 4. I was like, of course, it was a pass, right? And people here don't care about grades. That was another shock that I, encountered as opposed to Romania. But I felt like, oh my God, the sky's gonna break loose right now. Everything's gonna, fall apart me. And it didn't, but it was just, to be honest, I deserved it. I had no clue how to do this and that. I had no clue how to work with practical projects. And that's a bit of like a minus to the Romanian educational system, in my opinion. On the other hand, to be honest, after I finished the master's, I feel like I am grateful in a way that I had the chance to combine the theoretical educational from Romania, from my bachelor's, with the practical knowledge from my master's combined together, I feel much more powerful if I only had done one or the other. So, but that's just me. I mean, I'm not saying that for sure only theoretical wouldn't have been best. Maybe practical would have been just enough, but combine the two of them, I think it's been a great experience from my perspective. But yeah, that was a cultural difference. I was working with mostly there were Austrian, German, Swiss people in the group, etc. So talking to them, I don't know, even going after classes they would I don't know, we would go out in a park and just sit on a bench, and they would drink beers. I wouldn't drink beers in Romania. I wouldn't do that. I don't know. It wasn't also part of my so it was just everything was completely new. The language was completely new. The fact that my first experience in Denmark's been living in a hostel, which has been truly horrible, the most horrible experience in my life. I was paying tons of money, if I want to say it, but I cannot say shitloads of money for it, and it was horrible. The conditions were horrible. So yeah, first 6 months, like I said, completely new people with different perspectives. They were looking a bit weird at me as well. I think I also got to, maybe, I don't know, you want to put this off the record or not, but a couple of one of my first questions from one of my master's colleagues has been also oh, but you look good. You look dressed well for a gypsy. What do you mean? In Romania, right? Gypsies. It's what is this even a question? Basically the guy was telling me that I am dressed better than he imagined that a gypsy in Romania would dress. So I didn't even take it as an offense, because I'm not even judging, people sometimes about, they just hear what they can see in the news, in media, etc.
Right,
So sometimes
right.
and we also have a talent of making some
Okay. Patricia, just to jump in a bit with some questions. So, starting with the high school, I'm curious because I have a cousin, for example, and he's following the same pattern. I mean, we've done the best high schools in Bucharest, and he's I think he's close to. It's not the last year in high school, but he's in a top high school. What advice you would have to give for him to, I don't know, to figure out what he can do in terms of not just university, but maybe he can find his own passions. Exactly. What advice you would have to give?
If I were to give an advice, and I really want to give this advice from the bottom of my heart, is that you should leave, first off, you should leave the sooner the better, the country. And I'm not saying for good whatsoever. I'm not by any means, I'm not advising people to leave Romania whatsoever. If anything, I'm just sad that I don't want to go back, because Romania needs people like us. But I would definitely advise that the sooner the better she leaves to abroad. It's easier, because for me, I felt like had I listened to my mother to leave a bit earlier, it would have been much easier. But if I just left way too late, in my opinion, it was much harder for me to take the cultural differences, to take the, everything else, to take the educational system differences, etc. So I would say leave a bit sooner. Decide later if you want to, and have time for traveling. To be honest, take breaks. I haven't done so, and I have not grown up in an environment, in a Western environment, where people can travel in between universities. And we're so much focused, because we've also been a post-communist country, etc. So we've been so much focused to finish high school, finish university, finish masters if possible, so you can get a job, so you can get those kids. This has been the societal environment that we've been growing up in, and that's not it. There's a reason why so many people, Western people and etc., they do so well. It's because that's not what they focus on. I don't know, if you want to focus on career, of course. So my advice would be leave sooner. The sooner the better. It's going to make it easier for you to kind of adjust with other people and with the different cultures and grasp as many information as possible. And when you're going to be 25, you're going to be, wow, I'm so grateful I've done this. And secondly, take time between studies, because at 18, nobody is ever capable to decide what they want to do for the rest of their lives, for like 40 more years of their lives. No, you cannot decide in the first 20 years of your life that. You need to either travel a bit or maybe not travel, but work. Like I felt like that's the educational system in Romania didn't allow me, because they wanted me to be present in class at every given point, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. They wanted me to be there, that I could not take a job. I took summer jobs, I remember, but I could not take, all year-long jobs.
Right.
In the field. I mean, like, of course, you could go in a bar and whatever, like do that or serve, but you could not take one in the field that would allow me to say, yes, I think I'm interested to work in this, or I think I would like to, I would fancy this. Whereas here, for instance, and I know in Western countries, they do allow you to juggle between studies and work, in which case you can kind of figure it out. Yeah, I kind of like that. Or if you don't like that, then there's no harm done, because you've been doing it maybe for a year during your studies. It's not like, if anything, it helps a lot on your CV. And another thing is work as much as possible. If you go study abroad, then work as much as possible during your studies, whatever it is, from waitering in a place to working for free as an intern, as a student, as whatever you can. Me, like as a manager right now, I am looking very much at that, and I'm very much appreciate a person who's been doing all sorts of jobs rather than somebody who's not had anything on their CV, but amazing diplomas and amazing studies. And that's not a cliche, it's true.
Right. So it's like, sorry to interrupt. So it's like more like having skin in the game for students. And I've seen this difference in between the age of the regular student. For example, when I was in Vienna and I was for my master's, and I had this discussion with one of my professors back then, and he was showing me statistics that what I was shocked back in the days. Average age of a graduate in the Technical University of Vienna, it was like close to 30 years old. And for me, I mean, being 20, I don't know, 23 to 24, I don't remember. It was, wow, what's happening? What do they do in between those years? And yeah, for them it's casual to do like this. And even I remember when it was like a huge scandal in the politics in back in Bucharest, maybe last year, I don't remember, with some guy's diploma who he was supposed to finish his studies in Vienna. And one of my friends from Bucharest back then, he sent me this link. Oh, look, Stefan, this guy who he's a very well educated and well traveled individual. He finished his diploma close to 30 years old, and he was shocked. And I replied to him instantly, no, it's fine in Vienna, it's okay. No, you don't have to think it's a bad thing. It's okay, this is what they are doing back over there. It's fine. So yeah, I've seen this difference, and I totally agree with you. I mean, I would say it's more about the life experience. I mean, of course, it's good to have the good grades and everything and all that, but it's also about having the life experience. It's not enough just to being in the library. You have to keep the skin in the game somehow.
100%, and that's why I'm saying, like, I used to be straight A's up until I came here, and I realized it's not really about that. And if you don't know how to use the theory that is so much worshipped and learned about it, it's pointless. Like, literally, like, it's pointless. And be patient. I would tell him, be patient, because I realize right now that some of the theory and things that I learned in bachelor's and in my master's, I'm only using it now when I'm like 30 or something like that, and that's fine. It's great. I'm actually having a sense of fulfillment when I can get to this point, because it means that I've grown to that point. Read a lot. That's another advice in the process. I feel like in Romania that's not promoted enough, but reading a lot is a huge thing. And again, you don't realize on the spot, but later on, you're just going to be like, wow, this helped me. Wow, I know this information from there and there. So if I were to be back at my high school age, I would definitely go abroad sooner. Take some time in between masters and whatever to really think through, work during my bachelor's and stuff, and read more if I were to redo my journey.
Cool, love it. So we are in Copenhagen. You finished. Would you want to add more during your masters in Copenhagen, or do you want to jump into maybe to the first job in Copenhagen? I know you've been working in a technology company. We can talk about this. For example, I'm curious. Did you have any internships during your masters in Copenhagen? How was it like?
Yeah, it was actually interesting because I was I was very much used to like going a lot to classes, etc. Like the same Romanian kind of style where you need to be present, etc. So I was doing all sorts of jobs here, literally from, I don't know, babysitting, painting walls, making pancakes, selling pancakes in the street, you name it, all sorts of jobs just to kind of be able to support myself. But I didn't have the experience in the domain, right? So I was trying to find a job. I was almost like in the process, sort of like I could not support myself anymore. So it was super close. It was funny that I was writing my master thesis. When you write your master thesis in Copenhagen, at least where I was, you no longer have classes, etc. You don't need to go anywhere. You just need to write your thesis, and you have 6 months to do so. So I was looking actively for jobs, and I went back to Romania. In the meantime, I actually said, while I'm looking for jobs in Denmark, and I'm writing my thesis, and I'm in Romania, I might as well work. So I went to work at PwC, the PricewaterhouseCoopers consulting agency. Amazing experience. I actually kind of started to like it, but and I was like right in the process to be promoted after like the writing my thesis, until the point where I actually got a reply from an interview from Copenhagen, where I was basically I had gotten a job here. So I said, yeah, sorry guys, would be fantastic to work more with you, but I'm not gonna stay in Romania. So I went back to Copenhagen, started this job. This was in a digital marketing agency. It's quite a big agency, Publicis Sapiens it's called right now. And worked for like 7 months there as an internship, you could call it. And that was in marketing. And it was purely like, again, saying that my master's and my bachelor would prepare me for everything, like I said. So I still didn't know fully what I wanted to do. Reading through job descriptions helped me understand that I want to do this or that, honestly. I even lie. So I could have...
Sorry to interrupt. This is a good insight.
But it is a good insight, because from somebody coming from a business environment where you learn a bit from everything, you learn a bit of accounting, you learn a bit of finance, you learn this and that, you can do anything. Honestly, that's another like advice for people who are not fully decided. Go for something broader that allows you to kind of, pick whatever fits you best. And then reading through job descriptions where they literally tell you would be doing this and this and this and this. Okay, I want to do this and this and this versus this and this and that, So that's how I decided marketing. Also because I wanted to be, I like how to say, I like creativity. I like a bit of a good sense of aesthetics, etc. But I want to sell through a like kind of a neuromarketing setup, like through a people's minds, etc. But I don't want to have direct contact with the end user. So I don't want to talk to you and sell me this pen. I don't want to be that person. But I want to lure you into buying something that I want to offer.
Right.
So I did that there. Then I wanted to work at another, then my internship finished, and I was looking again for other jobs, and I ended up at this interview where I applied super cocky as a manager, right? Although I had an intern. So I'm saying, yes, I want to be this. And then they're like, yeah, but you don't really have the experience. And I'm like, listen up, I'm going to work for free. for 3 months, and then you tell me
No
afterwards.
way.
You tell me afterwards if you want to keep me or not. And it was super funny because I had started, of course, I put my best in it and etc. And after 1 month, in parallel, I was applying to other jobs as well. So in parallel, I got an interview to another job, and they offered me a position there. So then I came back to these guys and said, I got offered a position here. So it's like, no, but we want you. So it's like, okay, so you want me. Then they had to counter offer me, etc. And then I ended up, of course, staying there because I had already gotten used to the setup, and I preferred, staying there. And this was the tech startup that I was one of the tech startups in Copenhagen that is still today, and it's grown a lot. So I joined when we were 20 people. Now the company's got over 120 people or so. And it's a tech wireless company. So they were doing, if you know Chromecast.
Yeah.
As we do, they were doing an alternative of Chromecast, but not for private usage, but more for businesses and institutions, so like a B2B kind of sector. So I worked there for like 3 years. It's been amazing. It's definitely been my launch ramp and everything, where it kind of the get-go for it. I got a team there of it differed like from 5 to 8 people. It's been quite intense, and like startup is in general, it's super intense. Everything is hectic. You need to find your own order in it. You need to, and every result, every initiative that you take, you'll see the results immediately, which is super satisfactory on one way, like, oh my God, I did this. On the other hand, if that is not there, then you kind of failed a bit. I mean, maybe that's a big word to say, but like, then all the other people say, this didn't work, so you need to kind of push it. So there's a lot of like trial and error thing, so that teaches you a lot. And if there's another advice that I can give at this point is work in startups when you're young, at least when you don't have a lot of like obligations, when you don't have kids, you don't have families, you don't have this or that, or I don't know what. Work in startups, because it's going to teach you lessons that you cannot get anywhere else. And you'll see that the older you get, and that's what I see from me and what I see from other people, the older you get, the more you want the security of a corporation, or you want some things to be clear and in place. So you'll be much more reluctant to choosing a job in a startup as you were in your 20s. So do work in a startup if you get the chance in your 20s. Don't choose the easy, I would say easy, but it's not necessarily easy, but like, the expected way, which is a corporation, because you won't, once you go corporate, my opinion, at least that's very subjective, it's very less likely that you'd go back to startup unless it's yours, of course. So if it's yours, that's a different story. But if it's not yours, it's a bit less likely that you're going to go back this way. And it's a pleasure to work in a startup, my opinion, at least.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry?
Sorry, go ahead. I was just trying to say that you've anticipated my question in terms of, would you recommend working in a startup, or would you recommend going in a big company early in your career?
Both. I think that they make sense, but yeah, as you said, like, it depends on where you are in your career. If you're in the beginning, I mean, a corporation is always helpful. So you can work like in a corporation, whatever, even in the beginning of your career, or whatever, at any point of your career. But a startup, I feel like it's much more suitable for the beginning of your career. It allows you for that trial and error. It allows you for you to be human much more. It allows you to experiment. It allows you to take more responsibility, even if you don't have the right experience, right? I had not so much experience. I already became a manager. I had to take care of people. I had to do this and that. And they kind of threw me out there. I learned how to swim by swimming in that sense. So it does a lot for you, and it gives you like a valuable experience. So do that for 2, 3 years, 4 years. You're going to get bored at some point, maybe of salary negotiations, or maybe about, like most of the startups, they will try to, depending of also of how successful they are, right? But that's why they call it a startup. And But if it's a startup and then it becomes a scale up, in that sweet spot in there, it's fantastic to work from 20 people to 100 plus people. Then that's fantastic to work there. You get a lot of like team building. You get a lot of Friday bars. You get a lot of like, there's the cultural point of it. Like starting with the corporation, I don't remember when I had my last Friday bar. So just to say, put it out there, like when you're in your 20s working in a startup is fantastic. I would say crucial, but that's just through my eyes, you know. So go do it. Then you're gonna get tired, like I said, about but I'm not paid enough. Maybe there's not this pension. I don't know, scenario is not really good for me, so on and so forth. The things that you start kind of get worried the older you get. And then go work in a corporation. I'm working in a corporation. I love working in a corporation right now. Probably I wouldn't have said the same 3 years ago, but 4 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago. But 3 years ago is when I started working in this corporation. I love it. I think I got into the right spot. It was super funny because in the place where I'm at, the average lifespan, so it's called VELUX, it's roof window company. It's the biggest roof window company worldwide. We have, like I said, an office in Warsaw as well. And it's interesting because when I got in, like the average lifespan of an employee in our office in Copenhagen is 14 years.
Whoa.
So, exactly. So I was like, what? And then I started working there with the thought, maybe I'm just gonna stay 1 year, 2 years. Let's see what's cooking, you know, let's see what's happening. And wow, fantastic. Like I did not expect, I love it so much that I really do not foresee the time that I want to leave at this point. Like I don't have it in my horizon, you know, when you say, maybe not now, but I feel like I'm getting tired, you know, all those questions that you might have to yourself. So I really love it, but that's also because I don't want to like, you know, be shallow or anything, but I'm in a sweet spot in the sense of I was part of like this team where we're starting a new division where we're launching the high end part of the VELUX roof window. So I'm working a lot with architects, interior designers. We're doing a lot of like creative projects. We're filming a lot of case studies. My marketing is so creative and broad, and it's full on responsibility on it. So I have full ownership on it. That, of course, I love it. Maybe somebody else in the same company with 13,000 employees, like there must be somebody who doesn't like it, right? But I feel lucky from this point of view that I'm in the right department at the right time, because many people many times ask me, so would you recommend me to apply for a job? There's like, yes, from I don't know, salary, benefits, etc., this and that and that, this aspect, sure, I recommend you. From a department perspective, I don't know, you need to know the people, you need to kind of be lucky in that sense, because I've heard many people many times saying, I don't want to, I'm quitting because I don't like this guy, or I don't want to work with this guy or whatnot. I'm like, you're going to find shitty people and amazing people everywhere you go. It's about how you kind of manage the whole situation. You will never be surrounded by fantastic people all the time. So it's about how you kind of, you know, take care of that. Yeah, exactly.
I'm curious if you can share a bit of technical details in terms of what a marketing person does in within. Maybe we can have a comparison in between a startup and a big company, a corporation.
Yeah, it's a huge transformation. So first of all, we're talking different budgets, right? So on one hand, I always thought that I had a small budget in much smaller budget in a startup. And I always said, but that's fantastic, because that allows me to experiment more with a lower budget. And it's true, to be honest. For instance, I had a huge project back in my startup days where I had to kind of focus a lot on PR, you know, press releases and stuff like that. So I had my team say, okay, you have this budget, extremely small. We need to get this amount of press release, etc. So we would create a strategy for that. Basically, many times we would not even pay for them, or many times we would negotiate to the minimum cent, you know, to every dollar, to get it as cheap as possible. And it worked. We got so much coverage, etc. So yes, small budgets do make you more like bootstrapping, makes you more creative. What can I do? How can I manage this whole thing? How can I make it more? How can I squeeze more the lemon? Which is fantastic. But on the other hand, I never knew how creative a big budget can make you.
It's all about the money, huh?
But that's a big difference, to be honest. Like, that's something that I've noticed straight up when I came here, like being able to, and again, it's a bit special. So just to say that the marketing departments that I have in the company, in VELUX, most of them I've noticed that in general corporations, they work a lot with agencies. So they get 20 agencies and they say, you do this, you do that, etc. I wanted to stay away from that, because if I feel like I'm just outsourcing stuff, I mean, I think you need to be smart in general on what you outsource. You cannot outsource just everything. You need to outsource what is really monkey work, or what is really, a no-brainer, or what is things like that. Whatever it is more like precious to you or dear to you, I wanted to keep to me and to give it that personal feel. So I'm only outsourcing what I feel like it just needs hours to be done, and the executional part, exactly. And what I feel like is the personalization, the contact to the end user, etc. And the creative part, I feel like I want to keep it to me, because I've seen that that's where the greatest results come out of. So this is where I'm saying like big budgets come into place, because that's allowing me to get an agency to do that monkey work, or I can dream about conceptualizing a TV show, or working with influencers who ask these fees or those fees, or with agencies working on the search engine or whatever. So it's helping me get the executional power where I keep my creative here. So that's why it's helping me. Whereas back in the startup days, I had to do both, like to be executional, be going on the holistic level, executional again, holistic level, like I would just do like that. And I'm not gonna lie you, I'm doing this right now as well, but it's at a much slower pace, because I have somebody else or different budgets to help me doing that. So I would say one asset definitely is the budgets that are very different from a corporation to in a marketing strategy. And secondly, even though it's from a career perspective, being in a startup, it was me, my boss, and then the CEO, right? Because you're like, I came among the first people. There's just, like I was among the first ones. And even though I was a marketing manager, I only had 2 people above me. And truly, that's where you don't have a lot of place to grow. So that was one of the main factors why I actually decided to change companies. I couldn't grow laterally, like in different departments, because you have some people and you need them where they are, etc. You're very bootstrapped on people. You cannot just afford to just get somebody from a department to go learn something else and do stuff like that. In a startup, you need to know where people are at. That's an army right there. You're fighting with the venture capitalists. You're fighting with the investors. You cannot risk that. So I could not grow anywhere. Above my boss, I couldn't go, because what am I like? My boss needed to leave in order for me to go up. Laterally, I couldn't do anything. So there was no place for me to learn anymore. I kept doing the same things, of course, different way all the time, but so that's a limitation that I would say in a startup as opposed to a corporation. Now, if I want to, I can just go literally wherever in this company and learn more. Like, I know a person, I'm quite young in the company. If you think about it, 14 years lifespan, I've been here for 3 years, right? But I have an acquaintance in the company who's been for like 7, 8 years, and she's already had 5 jobs in completely different fields. The amount of experience and knowledge that she has, it's impressive. I love talking to her, So just to say that the possibilities are broader from this perspective. Budgets, possibilities in that sense. There's less freedom in the sense of like, you might fight a bit of like bureaucracy processes. Always like, you have to think that you have 13,000 people in this company, but there's other corporations have double the number, right? You need to fight some governance. You need to find some, like how you centralize everything, how you like, some companies work on centralization and then local markets, then some others work on regional markets. etc. So you need to think that whatever initiative you might have, that might need to go through some processes, to some approvals. You cannot just go cuckoo, and no matter how frustrating that sounds to you, it makes sense to the top management, right? You need to know that in a corporation, probably it's not top management won't know as much as what you're doing, down here. So sometimes you might find yourself in front of some ridiculous askings. Oh, let's make this fantastic. Let's make this company great again, And then you're gonna be like, yeah, but this would take this and this and this and this. Oh, but then let's do it. It's like, no, but this is not like as easy. So you might find yourself as that. Whereas in a startup, it's more like everybody knows what you're doing, and the bit of like the setup is much more agile, right? Like if you come up with an idea, let's do it now. Like we do it now, Which, getting back to my thing, the vision that I'm part of right now, it's actually like we call it the startup of the company. So to be honest, I'm working in the same agile level. It's like an incubator, So to be honest, I'm working on the same agile level and the same, like startup vibes, but with the corporation security, which is fantastic for me. Like basically, I have the budget and the security of working in a big company, but with the agility to work and to make decisions and ownership as in a startup. So I'm in a lucky position, but we're 10 people in that position. I'm trying to put here like in balance with the bigger picture corporation,
That's excellent, Patricia. I mean, you married the two. Excellent, having the startup initiative. I mean, working with this new division. So basically, as you said, working as startup, but we're under the umbrella of a big corporation. That's smart and lucky and.
Yeah, exactly. It's lucky because again, you don't find these opportunities all the time, and maybe next time I won't be as lucky, etc. So I'm well aware that I'm just in a sweet spot as we are.
Now I'm intrigued about this. So you can have so many jobs within the same company. Do you think it's specific to this particular company, or is it specific to, let's say, Denmark, or to a specific region within the I don't know, the entire region? I mean, when you worked in Bucharest, for example, for a Big Four company, do you think it would have been more easier for you to switch in between departments, or was it like the same level of flexibility as in your company?
I'm going to be fair and square. Technically, it should be possible for any large company because they have so many positions, so many places, so many, etc. You can have so many mentors, so many, like in a large company that should be able everywhere in this world. Sadly, I can say that from the experience that I have and my friends from Romania and what I experienced at PwC in general, I think it's a bit harder because we're a bit more conservative in that sense, but that's just my impression. So I don't foresee myself, like I'm not the person who's worked so much in Romania to be able to say that. But from my impression and from, I still have a lot of friends in Romania, is that it's a bit harder to do the same switch as it is in Denmark or as it is in, I don't know, some North or Western countries. But it should be possible because I think it's all dependent on the size of the company, in my opinion, to be able to do that.
All right, cool. So do you have anything specific to share about the culture, but in terms, so now we touched the subject of cultural differences, but at the university level, what about the cultural differences in a professional environment, as in a big company? Do you see any specific differences in between the Western culture and the Northern culture and so on? Eastern, of course, Eastern Europe.
Definitely, there is, but I would say that there's much more respect at this level. You get to an age where you're kind of like everybody, like you barely feel these differences, because I don't know, during my master's program, etc., like it's a bit of a different vibe, right? But and also it depends on the setup. Like it's a business setup, etc. So you don't really feel as much, but of course there are some things, I don't know, you maybe have a meeting with an Italian person from somebody from Italy or whatever, and then they're gonna be late for 10-15 minutes. There you go, your culture. I don't know. It's what is it like? Even with this thing, like even with the more like Scandinavian people, like you would get they would be extremely polite. They would try to say that, you're a bit bothering me, or you're, but I'm not really saying it, etc. So there are some cultural differences that you learn during the time, but what I'm trying to say is that they really don't make your life neither better nor worse. They really like don't do much to you. They, if anything, they spice it up a bit. So I wouldn't say it's wow, like a shocker or anything, especially if you're used to living abroad. Now, it would be an interesting perspective to hear from somebody who moved with the job, just with the job. Because if you move with studies, then that's different. You already get of like the cold shower, and then everything is just roses and butterflies for you, right? But if you just move straight up with a job, then that's gonna be. And also, what I think that shocks a bit also my French friends and my Romanian friends, at least, is the informality that I get to deal with. Like, I can talk to, I don't know, a CEO, a 60-year-old CEO with, hey, you, what's up? As opposed to monsieur, or like, as opposed to like Mr. and like, would you please be so kind as to this and that, So the formality, I think it's very present in many of the European countries, not in the northern ones, at least. And I love it, fully love it. Long live the English language, and also the Danish and the Scandinavian, because it makes you feel closer to the person you're talking to. And it makes, like, they also promote a lot, at least in Scandinavia, the flat hierarchy. To be honest, ever since I started here, maybe there's 4 steps on top of me, like in the, like, as a level, a hierarchy level from me and the CEO. I've never felt those steps. I've never, like, by talking to, I don't know, or to an SVP or to a VP, it really felt like such a friendly manner, and such, like, I could express ideas, I could spar, etc. It never felt that. Whereas in Romania, always, like, I would never even dream to chat with the partner, main partner from PwC, or he had his own room, like, closed there, like, you wouldn't, So this is what I'm saying, like, these would be some cultural differences that I would encounter. And potentially also, I don't know, I think it comes down to, I'm 100% sure, but I don't have the experience myself about salary negotiations and stuff like that. I'm 100% sure there's some cultural differences there.
Right. Speaking of talking with people and different ranks and so on, how do you approach this networking thing? Do you have like a strong networking around you with like-minded people working in marketing, working in finance, or in all sorts of industries that can inspire you, or you can go to with different questions and so on? And if you had them back in the school as well, or is it just during once you started off your professional life? I'm curious.
Yeah, so that's a good question. First off, like, at least my company, and I know a couple other companies that for sure do it, they have this mentorship program as well.
Right.
So I can find mentors through them, and be it through my company or like from someplace else. So I've had a period, like, I've had 2 mentors at the same time that are focused on different areas, and etc. So that's that. And I think it's very common in general in companies here, at least, that you have mentorship programs. Secondly, there's a lot of events. There's so many apps in Copenhagen, at least, like, about like events, that whatever. And then you can find them on subjects. You find events to just go out and drink, but you can find events on marketing, events on finance, events on sales, etc. And meetup events as well. It's called meetup.com or something like that, where you meet these people, and you can do them. I used to do them even more during my studies than now, because I had more time. So that's when I started. But then there's no week in your calendar that wouldn't have an event if you really want to participate in this. So 100%, which I feel like, again, it's much easier to find these events than back home, or at least when I used to study there, it was a bit harder for me to find them, or to, maybe it was also because apps and things like that weren't such a big thing back then. But yeah,
But
yeah.
you've had these mentors around you even in school, or just I'm sure it was your mother or your parents. They have enough experience to guide you throughout your career and everything. But you had someone. I mean, you had this reflex to reach out to people with questions, even back in the school.
Definitely. The universities have mentorship programs. There's events for you to just participate voluntarily if you want to. And at work, after you get to work, if it's not a startup, because startups might be a bit more like laissez-faire, in that sense. But
There's the French here. On va parler en français à partir de maintenant.
But larger companies, for sure, they would have mentorship programs as well. So it's impossible for you not to find. And you can have 1, 2, 3 at once. Of course, you need to kind of invest some time yourself and kind of do some research. And you need to choose them wisely, in the sense of, I want this person for this profile. So you need to think what you want to pick from those mentors yourself, and how does that, fit with what you want to do. You cannot just pick people and say, hey, do you want to be my mentor? Cool, dude. So it's not like, but and also you can be rejected by mentors. They also need to get something from you. It's a win-win thing. It's not about just you kind of squeezing the lemon out of them, but it's also about them getting something out of you. So if they don't feel like you match, then it's a bit of like, for instance, my master's thesis professor has been one of my mentors in college. That makes sense, right? Because you're also working then on your master's thesis, etc. So that's a good decision if you want to make one like that.
Awesome.
And never pass on the offer of a mentorship session if you have the chance.
Awesome, Patricia. Please let me know if you have a piece of advice you have to share with your younger self, or with everyone out there who is trying to, I don't know, either is trying to get into marketing, either is trying to go and live abroad, or follow your footsteps. I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, I do strongly believe that a couple of advices would be leave sooner from the country, so you can get used to the different environment faster. The longer you stay in your home country or in your home place, it's going to be harder for you to leave. Take breaks in between your studies. Don't be afraid of that, and work. I know that it's easy to say. Some people, they just have money from the parents or not, or whatever. If you don't, just always work. Don't be afraid to work, be it in a restaurant, in a bar, in a street, in whatever. Just do whatever you can do and support yourself, but do take breaks, because you will never know at 17, 18 what you want to do. Another piece of advice that I didn't take was, if you can do an exchange program.
Right.
If you decide not to go study abroad during your high school or your university, go take that exchange program, Erasmus or whatever it is. I didn't do it, and and also in my university, I had to choose between doing an exchange program and taking summer school. It was in a field that I really liked, but still, and I chose the summer school part, and I'm a bit of like torn right now. I would have done it. And I think it offers you an immense experience that you cannot replace with anything else. And you will never, ever again kind of say, I don't know, when you're 30 or 35, oh, what if I just go a year somewhere and then come back? Never gonna happen. If you have the chance with work, push it for instance, my boss, and I really think that's pretty cool. My boss has been working at the company that I'm working on right now for 7 years, and he's been working for 6 months in the office of Madrid. So if you're lucky enough to work in a corporation that has offices around the world, go do it there. Like what I did was, for the startup that I used to work before, I took advantage of working remotely, because they're a startup, they're very flexible. So they used to promote this working remotely way before it wasn't cool and Corona wasn't a thing. So I used to go work at their U.S. office for a month in New York. It's not been a lot, it's been a month, but it's still been like a game changer for me. So fully recommend that. If you get the chance to do that, do it. Like I said, take breaks, go faster abroad, work during your studies as much as possible. Whatever it is, it's well received. Work for free. Don't be afraid to work for free, especially while you're like, if it's in the field, you know, you like it takes a bit of like grinding and a bit of effort, but then you're gonna be grateful to yourself. And work in a startup at least once. Just do it. I think you're gonna love it. Definitely.
Exactly. I remember when I was in university, I was in an engineering school in Bucharest. I took Erasmus even during my bachelor's, and then next during my master's. I was so shocked why there are not so many students showing this drive to just going abroad, especially when you have the chance to. I mean, being in your 20s and living in Paris, living in Vienna, living in Madrid, living in these cool places, it's a privilege. I don't understand why not so many people are taking advantage of that.
It's because they would have to jump out of their comfort zones, right? Some would be a bit luckier that they would say receive money from their parents, and then they could do that, but then they don't want to leave their comfort zones, and some of them they would be scared. Yeah, but I need to work to support myself and study and this and that and whatever. So both scenarios are going out of your comfort zones. Of course, like not everybody is made to get out of their comfort zones. That's a given.
Okay. No excuses. You should just go and take that exchange and all right. All right, but Patricia, thanks so much for sharing the knowledge on my podcast. I don't know if you have anything else to add on to the discussion. Just throw it out there.
I mean, probably if we were to like just, I could talk about it a whole night. So no, it's not something that is off the top of my head right now. But I think I did encompass a lot of, and I'm happy I did share those advices because I really believe in them. So do follow them, however annoying they sound.
Cool, cool stuff, Patricia. Thanks again, and we can leave it to that.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.